California faces a shortage of foster parents, but a new bill would basically turn worthy parents away if the state deems them not to be, quote unquote, woke enough. This will only hurt foster kids. We'll tell you what the proposal is and how we can stop it coming up. I'm Carl DeMaio, chairman of Reform California, and there's yet another offensive and damaging bill being proposed in California that will only hurt the most vulnerable kids in society, foster kids. This is a proposal, Senate Bill 407, authored by Senator Scott Wiener, a Democrat from San Francisco. And you know I've talked about Senator Scott Wiener before. I've nicknamed him the patron saint of sex predators because every bill that he introduces is designed to protect criminals, prostitutes, pimps, sex offenders. There's a pattern here. This guy is really extreme. But now he has proposed a bill that will hurt foster kids. He is claiming that foster parents need to undergo certification to make sure that they are, quote, woke. That's right. Senator Scott Wiener wants to reject applicants who want to become parents to foster kids if the state deems that they're not politically correct enough, they're not woke enough. Specifically, Scott Wiener's bill, SB 407, would require that parents get, quote, certified in LGBTQ issues, whatever the hell that means, and that they would have to affirm under a penalty of perjury statement that they will support sex gender therapies for children if a foster kid is assigned to them and starts expressing gender questions, gender identity issues. Now, I can't even begin to start with how damaging and offensive this proposal is. But let me first allow Senator Scott Wiener his opportunity to make his case. Scott Wiener, in introducing the bill, said that it will ensure, quote, ensure that LGBTQ foster youth are raised in supportive and affirming environments. He went on to say that LGBTQ youth deserve, quote, deserve families that embrace and empower them as they explore their identity. What he's basically suggesting is that the well-intentioned, compassionate, generous parents out there who want to be foster parents are somehow the problem. That somehow they're not going to be good enough for these kids. That somehow they won't try to do everything they can to support these kids. Senator Wiener, you are absolutely untethered from reality, and you are a despicable person. This attack against foster parents is completely unwarranted. We don't see foster parents out there trying to torture LGBT youth. We don't see foster parents trying to neglect these kids. Foster parents are the heroes stepping forward to take in kids who've been abused by their real parents, who've been left behind and disappointed by a system that has allowed too many kids to fall through the cracks. And yet what you are doing, sir, is you're not only smearing foster parents, you're willing to turn away good foster parents if they're not woke enough. If they're not willing to put pen to paper and say that they will do something that most parents, Democrats included, would never support. And that is affirming and giving the green light to a child under the age of 18 undergoing sex therapy, sex gender therapy, or inalterable surgeries, gender therapies that could leave long-lasting damage. Any parent who's got even a brain is going to say, hey, I affirm who you are. I want to support you. I'm going to get you mental health care. I'm going to get you support structure. I'm here to support you. But we might want to hold off on the surgery part until you are absolutely sure. That is the best course of action, particularly when you have a foster parent who's there not to make decisions that might be inalterable for a foster child. And let me just point out the data, though. The data shows that a lot of LGBTQ children who have gender identity questions go on to resolve those questions in favor of their birth gender. A study by Court in 2008 found that only 2.5% to 20% of all cases of gender identity disorder in childhood persist into adulthood. Let me repeat that. Only 2.5% to 20% max of all cases of gender identity disorder persist into adulthood when they are first seen in adolescence. A Dutch study in 2013 also found that gender dysphoria does not usually persist in the vast majority of cases past puberty. The subject of transitioning young children is nothing more than a political weapon being used by the left to try to inflame the notion that somehow parents, foster parents in this case, or people who are on the center right, somehow are anti-trans or anti-LGBT. We're not. We live by the golden rule. I'm a gay Republican, okay? So I am affirming of everyone. Treat people with dignity and respect. The golden rule. What we oppose strenuously is a child who's still trying to figure out who they are, what they like, making a decision that can't be altered once they're into their adult years. We don't want kids to have regrets. We want the pressure to be taken off them. We don't want them making these decisions up front. We want them exploring and deciding when they're an adult. And any good foster parent hopefully will take that approach. But for Scott Wiener, he says, no, if you don't agree to his extremist position up front, you're not able to be a foster parent. And mind you, Senate Bill 407 would be implemented at the application phase. If you're a foster parent, even before you get assigned a child, whether they are trans or not, or straight or gay, doesn't matter. At the very forefront, if you don't affirm to approach this issue from this extreme position, you're disqualified. You're disqualified. So what will that result in? Not only does it not support the care of LGBTQ adolescents, it will take valuable foster parents out of the pool of applicants. We already have a foster parent shortage in the state of California and nationwide. It is severe. It is at a crisis point. And let me share some of these articles with you. In California, this is one article from Medium. In California, the shortage is so severe that some children have been sleeping on top of conference room tables, desks pulled together, and mats on the floor. That's from one article. Here's another one, San Luis Obispo. Foster kids ending up homeless on the street because of the foster parent shortage. Hey, take a look at Redding, California. More teens entering foster care, but fewer families willing to take in foster kids. And then finally, take a look here in San Diego. There's a foster facility called Polinsky, the Polinsky Center. And take a look at this graph. It shows a massive spike in 13, 14, and 15-year-old admissions, and 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17-year-old admissions in the last 5 years. That's to the Polinsky Center. Why are we putting them in a center? We don't have enough foster families. Look, I was almost in the foster care system in California. My mother passed away 2 weeks after my dad left our family. At age 13, I was taken in by the Jesuit priests. My sister lived on the streets. My brother, fortunately, was taken in by my grandparents in Iowa. I could have been one of those kids. In Scott Wiener's world, it'd be even worse. Foster kids would have almost no opportunity to get foster parents. But he doesn't care about that. Doesn't care about the impacts to these kids. He has a woke, radical left-wing agenda that he's pushing. Now, let me also point out that in San Francisco, they have a pretty big crisis on foster care. In fact, San Francisco has sent a majority of its foster kids to other counties every year for the past decade because they don't have enough foster parents to meet the need. Quote, the kids who are sent away are separated from their support network of family and friends and oftentimes forced to change schools. They're dropped into an unknown city while they're still reeling from the transition of adjusting to a new home. The article goes on to quote UC Berkeley California Child Welfare Indicators Project, showing that in July 2022, San Francisco placed 65% of foster kids elsewhere, almost doubling the state average of 33% of placements outside the immediate area. So, look, Senator Scott Wiener, in your own city that you have presided over, which has so many problems, which we've talked about on other podcasts, you're presiding over a scandal, an epic failure, a crisis of not having enough foster parents, and yet you're now going to make the situation worse statewide with your misguided bill. And here's some of the things that we should be doing. We should be affirming foster parents in every way possible, making it easier for foster parents to come into the system and provide a loving, stable home for these kids. We should make sure that we prioritize youth with the greatest needs. We should prevent family separation where at all possible. We should stop a pipeline of foster kids being released onto the streets, becoming homeless. 1 out of 3 foster kids are ending up homeless in California. It is a tragedy. And finally, we do need to expand our social service staffing so that these case managers can support foster parents and foster kids. Look, these lives, if we don't stabilize these foster kids with loving homes, society is going to pay the price. The homelessness is just the beginning. The number of foster kids that fall into crime and other bad behavior, it's epic. In California, we have to reject the identity politics, extremist, woke approach to policymaking. That means that we have to replace wingnuts like Scott Wiener in the state legislature. I urge you to join us at Reform California. Share this video. Sound off in the comments below as to whether or not you think Scott Wiener's proposal even has any merit whatsoever. Tell us if you are a foster kid or a foster parent or know someone who is. Tell us what they're experiencing and what could help them. If Scott Wiener is going to introduce a bill on foster care, what should he be doing to help the situation? But more importantly, join the fight. Go to Reform California, volunteer, share the stories that we have up there on a variety of topics, break through the liberal media mouthpieces that are out there, and contribute. We can't do this work without the grassroots support of individuals like you. Scott Wiener, stop punishing kids. Start solving the problems. If you can't, then what we need to do is have new leadership in this state. Replace wingnuts like yourself. That's it for this episode of Reform California with Carl DeMaio. We'll pick it up next time. Thanks for watching. Help us break through the censorship of the liberal media by liking this video, sharing it with your friends, and subscribe to my YouTube channel.